Hey guys, we're going right along to part 3. This is the Academic Chemistry Unit 1 Benchmark Tutoring videos. So this one we're going to be talking about the International System of Units, which is generally called the metric system, even though that's not technically what it is anymore. That's what I still call it. So let's get right into it, into the PowerPoint. So the metric system is basically a system that measures things and it changes things by a factor of 10. So why that's nice is multiplying and dividing by 10 is really easy. You just move your decimal. So let's compare a kilogram versus a gram, or a gram versus a kilogram. So what is a gram? What is a kilogram? Well, these are units of mass. So you find this on a scale, how much stuff is in something. So 1 gram is about the mass of like a paperclip. So I want you to imagine holding a paperclip. Like, how much do you feel that in your hand? How much stuff is there? Or like a stick of gum or the cap of a ballpoint pen. So 1 gram really isn't that much stuff. Versus a kilogram is about the mass of a large book. Think of that chemistry book that you took home. That's about a kilogram. A liter of water is a kilogram. Or a pineapple, that is a kilogram. Why? Well, you've got this big chart, which I summarized in your handout, where you have these prefix and they modify your base unit. So like a nano would modify it by a billionth, dividing by a billion, or micro dividing by a million. Okay, but kilo is 1,000, multiplying by 1,000. Because kilo literally means 10 to the third, or 1,000. So when I say kilograms, it literally means 1,000 grams. So 1,000 paper clips would be the mass of about 1 kilogram. So for example, if I had 2 scales and I put 1,000 paper clips on one scale and I put a pineapple on the other scale, they would be the same. They would have the same value of mass because 1,000 grams or 1,000 paper clips is going to be the same as 1 kilogram or 1 pineapple. So how to do metric conversions? We're going to do one-step conversions, and the first one we're going to talk about is removing a prefix. So when you remove a prefix, you're going to replace it. Remove, replace. So you replace it with the base 10. So that's from this chart over here, which my face is covering part of it, but these guys over here. So let's say you want to convert 4.5 centimeters, and you want to make that meters. So you go to your chart and you find centi right here. Centi means 10 to the negative 2. You can ignore that 1. Multiplying by 1 doesn't do anything to a number. So 4.5 centimeters is like 4.5 times 10 to the negative 2 meters. And remember, 10 to the negative 2 means dividing by 10 twice. So it's like taking 4.5 meters and dividing that by 10 and dividing that by 10, or dividing that into 100 pieces. 5.01 times 10 to the second kiloliters. So kilo is right over here. Kilo means multiply by 1,000. We saw that a second ago. So I can replace kilo with this, 10 to the third. Notice the K in red and the 10 to the third in red. I've removed the base and I've replaced it with its base 10. Now I can't leave it like this because this looks really weird. 5.01 times 10 to the second times 10 to the third liters. So I have 2 numbers with the same base and different exponents. And if you're in my class, you know that when you multiply, you add up high. So I am multiplying here, 10 to the second times 10 to the third. I have the same base, so I add my exponents. Well, what's 2 plus 3? And that's 5. So this is going to be 5.01 times 10 to the fifth liters. Something I want to point out in all these measurements. So 4.5 centimeters, notice at the end, my 4.5 doesn't change. Whatever you have up front here, those significant digits are always the same in the metric system, and that's what makes it really convenient. So 4.5 centimeters, no matter what you convert it to within the metric system, is always going to be 4.5 something. This 5.01 at the beginning, you see that from the beginning through the end. So those measurements, those parts of the measurements don't change at all. It's just your units and your factor of 10 that change. All right, so you're going to try these. Notice all of them are the remove and replace. Milliseconds going to seconds. Nanometers going to meters. Kilometers or kilometers, easier to think about as kilometers, going to meters. Milliseconds going to seconds, centiliters going to liters. So go ahead and pause the video, answer these few questions, and then we'll go through them when you get back. All right, so the first one, 6.3 milliseconds, you're going to add the milli, 10 to the negative 3. So this is 6.30 times 10 to the negative 3 seconds. 7 nanometers turns into 7 times 10 to the negative 9th meters. 10 to the negative 9th literally means nano. This one gets a little odd, so let's see how you did. 0.003 kilometers. So you had to replace the kilo with 10 to the third. But this isn't a really good measurement here since you have not a good coefficient to match with your base 10, and we'll go over proper scientific notation in the next video. But just a little heads up, this isn't good. It's got to be greater than 1, and this is much less than 1. So this is actually 3 times 10 to the negative third is a better way to write 0.003. And then you're going to multiply that by 10 to the third. So 3 times 10 to the negative 3 comes from here, 0.003. I've still got my 10 to the third here. That transfers over here. Again, multiply. We multiply, you add up pi. So I'm multiplying these, so I add my bases, my exponents, keep my base. 3 times 10 to the negative 3 plus 3, and you know that negative 3 plus 3 is 0. 10 to the 0 is 1, so this is just 3 meters. 2.99 times 10 to the 6th milliseconds. Milli got replaced with 10 to the negative 3. That came from milli over here. When you multiply, you add up pi, so I have 6 plus negative 3 up top. I like to put my negative numbers in parentheses just to make sure I don't get confused with them, so I know that that's just part of the number. So when you have 6 plus negative 3, you can kind of think of it like 6 minus 3. So it's 2.99 times 10 to the third seconds. And the last one, 1.01 times 10 to the negative fourth centiliters. So centi gets replaced with 10 to the negative 2. When you multiply, you add up pi. 1.01 times 10 to the negative 4 plus negative 2, which is like negative 4 and 2 more negatives. So 10 to the negative 6 would be the right exponent. All right, when you are trying to add a prefix, if you're going from a base unit that has only one part, so maybe it's grams, maybe it's seconds, maybe it's liters, but there's just one part to it, and you're trying to add the prefix, so add a centi, add a deca, add a kilo, then you need to divide by the base 10, and you're going to see that in your chart. So for example, if we have 5.03 meters, and we're trying to get it to centimeters, first write what you have, 5.03 meters, and then you're going to do your little crisscross here. So you guys have seen this before. Whatever unit you have that you don't want, put it on the other side. So I have meters here. I don't want meters in the end. See how I want centimeters? So that means I got the meters, that's got to go. I currently have it on the top, so I need to put it on the bottom because anything you have top and bottom, if it's the same, you can cancel it out. So remember, meters divided by meters turns into nothing. I want centimeters, so I'm going to put this on top. I need this whole side to be equal to 1. This is called a unit conversion. Whenever you multiply something by 1, then you aren't doing anything to that number. So if I put 10 to the negative 2 down here, it's like I have centimeters on the top and centimeters on the bottom, because centi is 10 to the negative 2. You have to be very careful where you put your prefix and where you put your unit. So let's go back. I had meters on the bottom, so it would cancel. Do not put any other letters down here, because then it won't cancel. I put centimeters on the top, because that's what I want. And then you have the make a date rule. So you've got meters on top and bottom in this. Who's got a date and who's lonely? On the top, meters is going on a date with the prefix centi. On the bottom, meters is by itself. And you don't want it by itself. So that's the one you need to give a date to. You can't give it centi, the C, because then it won't cancel. So centi literally means 10 to the negative 2, so that's why you put it here. Everything on the top gets multiplied, everything on the bottom gets divided. Before you do that, you can simplify things by crossing out what you have on the top and bottom. So since I have meters on top and bottom, I can go ahead and cancel those. When you divide, so I've got everything on the top multiplied, 5.03 times centimeters, which just looks like centimeters, and then divided by 10 to the negative 2. When you divide, you're going to flip the sign of your exponent and then multiply. So this is technically 5.03 times 10 to the second centimeters. That makes sense because a meter is this stick that's really long. It looks like a yardstick. So a really big stick. If you have 5 sticks, yardsticks, well, meter sticks, I'm sorry, you're going to have a lot of centimeters. A centimeter is this big. So you need a lot of little things to make up for the big thing. So I have, this is the same as 503, 5.03 times 10 to the second. So 503 centimeters in about 5 meter sticks. Here's another one. 7.8 seconds is how many kiloseconds? Set it up the same. Write what you have, make your crosses. Whatever unit you want to get rid of, that goes on the bottom. Well, I don't want seconds, so it's got to go on the bottom. What I want is kiloseconds, so I put that on the top. And then I use my make a date rule. So look at this. This has to be equal top and bottom, so seconds always needs a date. Your base unit seconds needs a date. On the top, it's got a date with kilo. On the bottom, it doesn't have a date. So kilo is right here, 10 to the third. I can't put K down here because then these won't cancel. So I put 10 to the third because it literally means the same thing as kilo, but allows me to cancel out my seconds. 7.8 kiloseconds divided by 10 to the third. Same thing, when you divide by something with an exponent, it's like multiplying, but you flip the sign of the exponent. So 7.8 times 10 to the negative 3 kiloseconds. All right, so here's 3 for you to try. And remember, you are adding a prefix. See how there's no prefix here. It's just one letter. And now we have a second letter. So we added a prefix. This is grams. Now we have megagrams. And so mega's down here. We haven't seen that one, I don't think yet. Liters, milliliters. Okay, so freeze this, and we'll come back and answer it in a second. All right, so you guys answered those questions, so let's go over the answers. So we had 4.03 seconds, and we converted it to milliseconds. So you set up your chart, cancel out seconds, so you put it at the bottom, milliseconds goes on the top, and then you need to make your date. Milli has to be on the bottom, but with your 10 instead of the prefix. Cancel out seconds. There you go. Dividing, so flip the sign and then multiply. There you go, 4.03 times 10 to the 3 milliseconds. How about this one, going from grams to megagrams? So here's how we set it up. Got to make your date. Remember, mega is 10 to the 6th. That's up here, or down here. Boom, boom. So we've got 1.04 times 10 to the third divided by 10 to the 6th. Anything that's on the bottom, you're going to divide by. When you divide, you then change it to multiply and flip the sign. So this would be 3 times 10 to the negative 6. 3, negative 6, add them together, you get negative 3. For this one, 6.2 times 10 to the negative 5 liters, turning it to milliliters. Liters goes on the bottom, milliliters on the top. Milli can't go on the bottom because then it wouldn't cancel, so you put 10 to the negative 3 instead. Liters cancel. Here we go. Remember, this turns into multiply, and then you flip the sign here. So it's really 10 to the negative 5th times 10 to the 3rd. So that'll give you 6.2 times 10 to the negative 2 milliliters. All of this you can put into the calculator as well. So remember, you can always plug it into the calculator, and the calculator will give the right answer. All right, so this one you're going to try on your own, and you're also going to have to determine if you're adding or if you're replacing a prefix. So go ahead and pause the video, answer these questions, and we'll come back and I'll give you the answers. All right, here we go. Here are your answers. I also highlighted if it was red, it was a replace. If it was green, you should have made the chart because you were dividing. And if you have any questions, go ahead and call over the teacher that is doing tutorial today. Okay.